That'll make it easier for me to navigate around. Okay, so first one is where it is. The second one is just going to be moved. Now we're going to see some performance issues in here for one specific reason. All the characters that are inside of each one of these ships, they have bones attached to them, and those bones are active. And right now, whenever I move something around in Lightwave, Lightwave is evaluating whether or not that bone has influence over a mesh. So at the moment, it's going to be feeling a little bit sluggish. So I'm going to just turn it off at the moment to wireframe mode, and that'll give me a little bit of a performance speed up, but not much. It's actually pretty heavy, but you can see still this is working. Now this isn't an impact of OpenGL or the performance of the video card. This always happens. It's more to do with how Lightwave deals with this stuff inside. Now you can actually shut that off, but it's more of a pain for me to shut it off to show you and demonstrate that, and then turn it back on for when I have to complete the shot. So we're just going to leave it on for the time being. All right, so there's one Viper. Let's grab another Viper here, and we'll take this one. We'll move it up. All right, we're going to just do this very quickly, and I'm also going to move it back in the scene here a little bit. I'm also going to give it a little bit of a twitch here on the rotation on its bank, and we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to move that Viper, rotate a little bit on the bank, and we'll keep going down the list. So Viper Mark II number 4, we're going to move this one forward. All right, we're going to put this one a little bit more in front here, and I'm kind of keeping with this rule of thirds area, but I'm going to probably move away from that as I move the rest of these Vipers in. I'm going to pull this one down a little bit. All right, and we're going to move it forward. And this one I'm going to rotate a little bit. I'm also going to change its rotation direction a little bit. One of the things that people notice in the show is that the Vipers don't always fly straight, and there's a reason for it. Well, space, you don't necessarily have to fly straight to go in the direction you want to go. You could be slightly tilted like this and still fly towards camera, and it really wouldn't affect you unless you wanted to actually be looking at something. So in reality, they were trying to get the illusion that the ships were paying attention to real-world physics. Although if you were a spaceship designer and you really didn't have to enter in the atmosphere much, these Vipers would be, more or less boxes, or something more in the shape of a capsule or something, because they don't really have to pay too much attention to the issues of aerodynamics or for physics. But it doesn't look very sexy if you're just flying a box around, so that's why these ships are made to look the way they are. Now, there was an episode that we worked on season 3, which is a fantastic episode, and that was the one we won the Emmy for, 303B Exodus, during season 3. In that episode, we saw the Galactica drop into the atmosphere and Vipers launching out of it. So yes, they do fly in the atmosphere, but if you were again paying attention to real-world physics, none of these ships would be able to stay up in the air. They just simply do not have the design for it. But we don't know what kind of magical engines or other properties these things have, and we never really got into that on the show, and that's probably a good thing. Too many science fiction shows always try to have to explain the technology. All right, we've got one more Viper in here that I'm going to move around, and I'm just going to give it a little bit of a crooked feel to it. Now you notice I've got these lines in here. This script that I just ran doesn't know how to deal with a certain item that's in the hierarchy, and it's basically a point to operation that points to where a null is, and you can see it. It's head rotation null, torso rotation null, and right now they're all pointing those object items back to the first one that was in the chain, which is in here. And it's actually probably right underneath of one of these bones. So let's just actually see that really quickly. It's actually under an object. And in here it'd be a custom object. That's what this function is. So we're just going to, yeah, there it is. So there's basically the item shape ball torso rotation null. And what we do is we use these basically as a real easy way for us to go into a character, grab that part, and then that manipulates everything else that we want to actually have an impact on. All right, so we're just going to ignore it, and we're going to go and continue to kind of build this shot up. All right, so now that I've got my cluster of Vipers in here, maybe what I'm going to do here is I'm going to separate and move one or two of these a little bit further away from the main group. All right, because what we're going to do is we're going to go and grab the Mark 7s, and we're going to do the same thing I just did. Alright, so that's looking a little bit better. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a null. So we're going to go load object, null object. Alright, so we're going to call this Viper Mark II group 1 flight null. Alright, now this is going to get dragged to the top of this list, and I'm going to select all of these Viper Mark II global nulls, which are the parent nulls for everything that's underneath one of each of these Vipers. And oops, I'm going to just drop it in under like this. I'm going to grab the rest of that group and do that same operation again, like I had originally intended. Alright, so now that I've got this Viper Mark II Group 1 flight null, that's a lot to say, but it makes sense. And we name everything so that we can actually read it and go, wow, okay, I know what this is and I know what it's for. Alright, so Group 1 is now attached to this null called Group 1. So now I can grab that null and move it around just about anywhere I want, which is going to be handy later. Okay, now this many Vipers on screen doesn't really look exciting, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run that operation again. I'm going to go and clone hierarchy, but I'm not going to repeat it 5 times. I'm just going to go once, so that'll give me a pack more of ships. And this is where we start getting into pushing the system a little bit, because we're now taking the original geometry from one Viper and we've expanded it. So now I've got Group 1 Flight Null 2. We're just going to rename this. So it's Group 1. Actually, it'll be just Group 2. Okay. And now I know that I've got that selected, and I can move the whole thing over. And we'll also move it back. So it's kind of be in the back. Alright, so we've got lots of older style Mark II Vipers. Alright, and we'll, maybe they're good there. Okay, and I'm just going to offset some of these Vipers as well so it doesn't look like I just repeated the entire pattern. I'm just going to minimize all this hierarchy again. And we're going to go and grab this Viper here, and you're going to go there. I'm going to go and grab this Viper here, and we're going to move it off to the middle here, and we're going to shove it back in the group. Alright, so I'm just positioning this stuff around, building up the shot to make it feel like, you know, it's humans flying these things and not a computer. Alright, and we'll go like this with this one. That's looking pretty good. Now, I'm just going to minimize the scene editor here for a second, and I'm going to go and take a look at this through the perspective view. So here we are on the back of one of those ships, because that's what I had selected. So I could move around and select any one of these nulls or any one of these objects. And as I select different objects, it's going to move. And right now it's just going through all of the different items in the hierarchy for each Viper. So if I was doing this manually, it'd be pretty slow, but if I want to, I can use the scene editor to select whichever one I want. And it's going to center, that's what this button is here, center, on each one of these Vipers. Now I'm going to swing myself around here just to see what this group looks like. Doesn't look too bad. I kind of like that. That's going to look good on camera, and we're going to go back to the camera view mode, and we're going to take a peek at just a few other things here. I think this Viper and this Viper here need to move a little bit, so we're going to go and select those. We just got to make sure that we select the right one. Alright, so that's Viper Mark 6, or Viper Mark 2 Global version 6, or Repetition 6. And let's go and grab 5, 4. Yeah, let's go and grab 4. And we'll just pull that up a little bit. Alright, that's looking good so far. Alright, I'm just going to move that to a little bit to the right. Okay, so now that I've got this big group, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do myself a favor. I'm going to just save this. Save scene as. Alright, and I'm going to go Viper Armadas. And you can see that I've built a couple of different Armadas here. So I'm going to just select this, so I don't have to type all that stuff in. But this is a Viper Mark II generic pilot. The other ones are Starbuck pilots. And these are full. And how many Vipers do we have in here? We've got 12, I believe. Let's count them. I'm just going to copy that for a second so I don't have to do that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Alright, so this is a 12 pack. So we'll go and save this.